All right, this review is going to be a little bit crazy. I'm going to have to refer to my notes a lot, and you're going to hear a lot of uhs and ums because this camera is insane. It is just so complicated, but so simple to use. There's so many really cool features, and it does stuff that I've never seen any other camera do ever. And you can ask any of the guys that work here. I've been talking about it all day because I think it's so cool. This camera has a GPS in it. It has a compass in it. It has a wireless ability. It has a gyroscope. I mean, I'm not even kidding. It has image stabilization. It takes 10 megapixel stills. It does on-camera HDR. It can do panoramics where you don't have to go and like take the pictures. You just go like this, and it takes a panorama. It's ridiculous. This camera's so cool. So let's start. This is probably like the king of point and shoots right now. So this is a very, very nice camera. Now, first of all, like I mentioned earlier, it is the HX5V digital still camera from Sony. Obviously, it's one of their CyberShot line. It's a 10.2 megapixel sensor. It does have a Sony G lens, and that's the first thing that I want to show you. I'm going to go ahead, turn on the camera, and you're going to see this very gorgeous looking lens pop out. This is a 10x zoom lens. It's a G lens, just like the Sony Alpha series DSLRs and all their Sony Pro video cameras use. It's actually 35 millimeter equivalent. It's 25 to 250 millimeter. Maximum aperture at the widest is 3.5, and maximum aperture at full telephoto is f8. It has a 9-point autofocus system, which is good as some of the very expensive DSLR cameras out there on the market. It has a macro mode, and it also has full image stabilization, as well as the Exmor backlit R sensor and the Bion's image processor. And that might sound like French to you, but those are the same type of technology that's being used in the much more expensive $1,000+ DSLR cameras that Sony uses now. Looking at the back on this thing, has a full 3-inch LCD. As you can see, it has a live histogram, which is really cool. You can turn that on or off. I just happened to turn it on. It actually has 230,000 pixels, so it does give you a pretty good idea of what your final image is going to look like. And not only does this thing shoot images, but as you can see with this movie button right here, it does also shoot video. And this is really crazy. Check this out. It doesn't only shoot one type of video, it shoots two types of video. One is a full 1080i, 60 frame per second in AVCHD format, or if you want to use the MP4 version of compression, it can do 720p at 30 frames per second. So the AVCHD is going to be really good for if you want to maybe burn it to a Blu-ray, and the MP4 is really good for websites and uploading to YouTube, etc., etc. Now, I want to demonstrate to you the steady shot. I'm going to point it up at myself. You're going to see that if I zoom in a little bit, let me zoom in. See, he's already automatically noticing my face. Let me point it at myself. There we go. You're going to see my chin is at the bottom, and my head up here is at the top. And I'm going to shake the camera, and you're going to see that the image on the screen is not really moving. My chin is not leaving the bottom, even though it's pointed right at me. That's because the image stabilization. And the way that that works is that inside of here, there's a little sensor right in line with the camera, and the lens lines up this way. What's happening is the sensor is moving up and down, and the lens is moving up and down. The gyroscope that's built in here is sending a signal to the processor. It's telling you, hey, there's movement happening. It's going up and down, and it's automatically figuring it out. So it's very, very impressive. Now, next thing is I want to go through all the different settings in the control knob up here. There's a lot of really good stuff happening, and each one of these has a really interesting setting. They're not all like, you know, different. We'll go through it. You'll see it right now. All right, so I'm going to point you at the back screen because I want you to read what it says. Very, very cool. Now, we're in the fully automatic one, but I'm going to switch it over to easy. Easy shooting with simplified display. This is the no-brainer one. You point the camera at something, and you push the button, and it takes a picture. Almost nothing on the screen. It is letting me know that we're in macro mode. If I pull it away, you'll see it went away from macro mode. Very, very simple mode. Basically, it's just very simple shooting. Now, next one we're going to go to is the anti-motion blur. This is incredible. It takes 6 images in low light, and then what it does is that it combines those 6 images to get rid of motion blur. Very, very cool, especially good for fast-moving objects. It's extremely cool. Now, the next one is handheld twilight mode. If you see there, shoot low light scene with noise reduction and no tripod. Basically, the same as the anti-motion blur. It's going to take 6 images. I'll even do it. oh, I have no space in the card. And I don't want to delete the ones that are on there. So basically, you can imagine, it takes 6 images really, really fast, and then it combines them just like in the anti-blur program feature, but it adds noise reduction. It's something you're going to be in the dark. There's going to be a lot of dark things and shadows. You don't want to have a lot of noise due to high ISO in those areas, so it's going to do 2 passes of noise reduction. Now we're going to go to the next setting up here. This one is the HDR, backlight correction HDR. It takes 2 images and combines the exposure of each of these. Especially good if you have a window and it's bright outside and you're shooting somebody through the window. You can see there I shot a picture of Bauer, and he did not get blown out. He's not in a shadow because there's a bright sun outside the window. So this was a pretty strenuous test, and it passed very, very well. A normal camera, he would just be a big shadow, and outside would be so bright that he wouldn't even come out. This took 2 images, one of him, one of the background, threw them on top of each other in a composite, and gave you this. Very, very cool. Next one is your scene selection. So automatically it's going to pull up a little menu, and you have all your scenes. So I'll start you off over here so you can see what's involved. Low light shooting reduces the blur. It's going to crank up your ISO to high. Shoot the subject with a soft background and make sure it's going to, what it's actually going to do is it's going to shoot at f3.5, which is the maximum aperture, and it is going to decrease the ISO to the lowest number so that you can shoot at that maximum aperture value, and that is going to give you the blurry background, or the very little depth of field. Now the next one over is the advanced sports shooting. This one lets you set the focus in advance. Now this thing is incredible because it shoots 10 frames per second at full resolution. That's better than some $5,000 cameras that are on the market that are DSLRs. A lot of them shoot 9 frames per second. This shoots 10. Absolutely incredible. Again, this camera is sick. Shoot landscapes. You have the twilight portrait, which is kind of like the twilight but for people. Another just low light. Food, if you want to get natural shots of food, take pictures of your pets, the beach, near water, inside snow, and then finally the fireworks mode, which has become very popular with a lot of cameras. And we're not done yet. We're going to keep switching modes. Next one over is video mode. I can't use it because I don't have a card, but again, you can select from the AVCHD mode, or you can go to the MP4 mode and shoot either 1080i at 60 frames per second or 720p at 30 frames per second, so both very useful to use. Next one over is the eye sweep panorama, and I gotta show this one to you because it's so cool. So what you're going to see is it has very simple directions. The user interface is just genius. It wants you to press the shutter and move smoothly in the direction of the arrow. So I'm going to lift up a little bit higher, and I'm going to twist it this way, and we're going to shoot a panorama. I'm going to start pushing the button, and I'm going to slowly go like that. And you're going to see, it's going to tell you where you're going. And when it's done, it makes a little sound. It processes the image, and there you go. You have a really cool panorama. I can't save it, unfortunately, no space on here, but very, very cool feature. It's not something you're going to find very often on any camera. And then here's another really cool feature, full manual mode. Everybody loves full manual mode if you know what you're doing. You want to control the exposure, the ISO, the aperture, the shutter speed. You can control it all in manual mode. You also have a program mode, which is kind of the same thing. So it does the exposure for you, but you control everything else. And then finally, the last set is the intelligent auto adjustment, where it's basically doing everything for you, making it really, really, really simple, but doing a really good job. So very nice. And I just want to take a quick tour through the menu real quick. I know I'm kind of talking on here, but I got to show it to you because I love this camera. Image sizes. You can see them there. You have quite a few, 5 megapixel. You can do VGA, and you can do widescreen, 7 megapixel and 2 megapixel at widescreen aspect ratios. You can shoot burst or single, and you can determine the burst as either 10 frames per second, 5 frames per second, or 2 frames per second, depending on how you want to shoot. And right up here at the top, there is a dedicated burst button. So if you know something fast is coming, you want to go into burst mode, it's going to automatically switch the focus to the high-speed focus, where it's going to track faces and moving to objects. It's going to go into the sports. It's going to turn on the image stabilization to its maximum setting, which is called the action setting. It knows to do all this stuff when you go into burst mode. It's going to take 10 frames per second at a full 10.2 megapixel resolution. Exposure value compensation is right there. Your eye scene recognition, where it picks the scene for you. Now we're in the easy, so it's only giving me the settings for easy. Smile detection, again, this camera has all the advanced features that you would see on an advanced little camera like this. They have face detection, where it detects your face and automatically focuses on it. It has anti-blink, where if you blinked, it's basically going to warn you that someone blinked and, you know, take the picture again. Red eye reduction. It has a smile shutter, which basically will take the picture when somebody smiles. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. Face detection, again, it's going to track all the faces, make sure they're all set up. And there's even more settings when you're actually in the, if you're in the full manual mode. You're going to see here you have even more settings. You can do bracketing, which is, again, something you do not ever find on a point and shoot. That's only on DSLRs. You can bracket up and down, take it a little brighter, a little darker. In case one doesn't work out, one of the other two will work out. You can adjust your ISO and your white balance and your focus and your metering. I mean, look at this. Adjusting your metering, that only happens on DSLRs. You can do the multi, you can do a center or a spot. I mean, very, very cool features on this camera. So that's basically the tour of the camera. I want to go over a couple more things though real quick with you guys. Some cool features that you won't find on other cameras. Really, really cool. Transfer jet technology basically is like a wireless transmitter. You can basically touch two transfer jet compatible devices and they will transfer up to 10 files over the air with no cables, no harnesses, no buttons. You select the files, you touch the devices, and they're going to transfer over the files. Really cool stuff. Now, like I said, this does have a compass in it, a GPS, a gyroscope, so it is very, very much location aware. When you take a photo, it's going to geotag that image, tell you where you took it and which direction you were standing in, which is incredible. It'll even tell you which way you're pointing the camera because it does have that gyro inside. So basically, it knows exactly which way it was facing. That way, if you want to tell somebody, hey, look, I took this photo right here, you can send them the GPS coordinates, tell them the cardinal direction that you were facing and the angle that you were holding at the camera, and they can reproduce the shot. Using the metadata, you could actually reproduce a shot, including focal length and everything. It's really, really cool. And there is more. In-camera retouching. You want to remove red eye, you want to soften skin, you want to trim it, make a crop, anything like that you can do inside the camera without pulling it out. It'll even do slideshows inside the camera with music. Music, yeah. Basically, you set it to slideshow mode, it's going to go through a slideshow either on your TV or on the screen here, and it's going to put music to it automatically. It's already built into the camera. So, I mean, this thing's incredible. It's a phenomenal camera. It is priced up there, but it takes DSLR-like photos. The quality is through the roof, and it has features that you're not going to find on any other camera, including that dual format video and having a compass and a gyro and a GPS and Wi-Fi and geotagging and panorama. I mean, the camera is really, really cool. So if you're in the market for a high-end point and shoot, this is what you should be looking at. It's the DSC-HX5V from Sony CyberShot. If you have any questions on it, feel free to email me, and I'll see you guys next time. For more information on the Sony DSC-HX5V, type in S08-3734 into any major search engine.
Yeah.